making sense of it all. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this virtual training. I hope that you are all as excited as I am to get this year started again, whatever it may bring as we proceed through this pandemic. I hope that this training is informative for you. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. My information is there on the screen. My name is Alicia Mancha. I am the ongoing monitoring coordinator. My email is amancha@nccaatx.org. And my office direct phone number 361-654-7915. Hopefully, we'll all be able to join together real soon. But until then, we'll go ahead and get started with our training. We're going to start off with our discussion topics. For the training, we will be talking about agency structure, history, and the programs that we have. We will review the consolidated budget for the Birth to 5 Head Start program. We will talk about non-federal share. Then we will talk about the purpose and responsibilities of the center level committee. Those are the parent committees at the actual centers. Then we'll talk about the purpose and responsibilities of the policy council members. So we'll start off with the agency structure. We'll talk a little bit about the history, and we'll talk about the programs. The promise of community action, and all of these should be posted at your centers. They're also available on the agency website, but we're going to review them just because it kind of ties into everything that we do as an agency, and who we are, what we stand for. So we'll start off with the promise of community action. Nueces County Community Action Agency changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. Our mission statement, which I'm sure you've reviewed multiple times if you've watched any of the other training videos, the mission statement: NCCAA works with partners to apply comprehensive strategies to eliminate the causes of poverty for people of Nueces County. And lastly, our pledge. We promise to provide you with courtesy, dignity, respect, and confidentiality in the delivery of services. Okay. In our agency, we have two primary programs. We have the community services, and then we have our Birth to 5 Head Start program. Community services is a division of Nueces County Community Action Agency, which provides a variety of programs to eligible, low-income individuals and families. These services include housing, assistance with utility expenses, rental assistance, weatherization of homes, information and referrals, and then notary services. Okay, the Birth to 5 Head Start program. The Nueces County Community Action Agency Birth to 5 Head Start program is a comprehensive program based on providing quality services for children and families who qualify and reside in Nueces County. So with all that being said, let's think about our mission statement. Our mission statement stated that we provide comprehensive services to eliminate the causes of poverty. So when our two programs work together to provide all of the services, the child development services for the children, then the services that we provide to our families through the community services portion, and through the services that our family advocates and the Head Start program provide to the parents. When we work together, we're meeting more needs, and it takes all of us to work together to be able to meet those needs, those diverse needs that our children in our families have. So we have to remember to the NCCAA organizational chart. We're going to look at it today to help us understand the structure of the program. Now, this organizational chart does not reflect the policy council nor the board. The board of directors is equal share right along with the CEO, which is Miss Alma Beretta. And then right under the CEO, you have the policy council. So they are just as crucial in making decisions as ultimately any of the directors are. So we'll go ahead and look at this. At the top of the chart, we have the CEO, as I mentioned earlier, Miss Alma Beretta. Then directly under her are the 4 directors, the Chief Operating Officer, which is Miss Cindy Longoria, the Chief Financial Officer, which is Miss Adele Rowland, the Director of the Birth to 5 Head Start, which is Miss Cynthia Davila, and then the Director of Community Services, which is Miss Isabel Valle Carpenter. And under each of the directors is their branch of staff. So under the COO is the receptionist, the janitorial maintenance specialist, the planner, and then directly under the planner are the compliance officers. And these are staff that are primarily there at central office. So then looking at the Chief Financial Officer, and under her branch, she has the Human Resource Manager. And under the Human Resource Manager is the Human Resource Generalist and the Human Resources Coordinator. Also under the Chief Financial Officer is the Supervising Accountant, who oversees the Benefit Administrator and the Payroll Specialist. And then there's the Accounting Coordinator, who has the Accounting Specialist, which is currently a vacant position, the Accounts Payable Specialist, and then also under the CFO are the IT Specialists. Moving right along, if we look at the Director of the Birth to 5 Head Start program, you see that there are the positions of the Site-Based Management Facility Coordinator, who supervises the Maintenance Supervisor, Maintenance Assistant, and the Maintenance Specialist. Also under the Site-Based Management Facilities Coordinator is the Site-Based Managers, who supervise the Family Advocates, the teachers and the Child Development Specialist, the assistant teachers, and the infant and toddler caregivers. Also under Ms. Davila, the Director of the Birth to 5 Head Start, is the Administrative Secretary, Ms. Ruth Bartley, the Ongoing Monitoring Coordinator, the TNTA Specialist, the Curriculum and Instruction Coordinator, who has the Curriculum and Instruction Technician. You have the Family and Community Partnership Coordinator, who has a Family and Community Partnership Technician, the ERSI Coordinator with an ERSI Technician, and the Health and Safety Coordinator, who has a CMAs and a Health Technician. Then you have the Nutrition Coordinator, who has the Food Service Specialist, the Quality Assurance Monitor, the Hot and Cold Food Prep, the Driver Food Prep, and the Food Production Specialist. Then you have the Education Coach Coordinator, who has the Education Resource Mentors and the Education Coaches. Then you have the Disability and Mental Health Coordinator, who has the Disability and Mental Health Technician, who has the Special Needs Assistants. Then all the way over to the right is the Director of Community Services, Miss Isabel Valle Carpenter, who has the CSBG Coordinator, who supervises the Clerk and the Eligibility Specialist and Case Manager, alongside the Weatherization Specialist and the Housing Project Specialist. So there you have it. That's everybody for the organizational chart. We will begin to look at community services and more of what they do. So, community services, their ultimate goal is promoting self-sufficiency. They have two different intake offices or service centers. The first one is the Rural Service Center. That's in Robstown on 801 East Main, and the phone number is listed there. Then the local Corpus Christi intake office or service center is the Community Action Service Center, located at 1006 East 22nd Street. It used to be the building in the Head Start program, Wiggins. So if you're kind of familiar with where that's at, that's exactly where this center is at now. I'm going to leave these here for just a moment and allow you some time to write those phone numbers down. You never know when you might need them to make a referral or share information with the parents in the Head Start program. So please take a second and write these numbers down. Robstown is 361-387-1527, and the Corpus Christi office is 361-882-4193. Okay, so to promote self-sufficiency, the goal is to transition their clients out of poverty, acronym TOP. Originally, the goal to transition out of poverty was 17. In 2019, 18 people transitioned out of poverty. People are transitioned out of poverty through case management. Case management is a collaborative process of assessing, planning, facilitation, care coordination, evaluation, and advocacy for options and services to meet an individual and family's comprehensive needs through communication and available resources to promote effective outcomes. So essentially, this is a definition according to Webster's dictionary. Case management is being there to help the families, guide them, provide referrals, help them with goal setting, ensuring the follow-through of referrals if needed, but essentially being there, working side by side, hand in hand with the families, and helping them, meet their needs. Okay, currently, there are 55 people undergoing case management. That's a big jump from 19. Some of the different classes that community services have helped their clients with are kinesiology, marketing, hospitality management, culinary arts, chemical counseling, pharmacy, dental hygienist, registered nursing, engineering, real estate, phlebotomy, radiology, surgical technician, criminal justice, pipe fitting, OSHA safety, commercial driver's license, business administration, social. So that was just some of the different classes. So there's a wide array of things that they can help out with. So some of the community partners that community services works with to help meet the goals and help provide services, Texas Workforce Commission, Dismissed Charities, Homeless Issues Partnership, Coastal Bend Barber College, Blessed Hand Barber College, Nueces County Department of Social Services, Veterans Roundtable, University of Texas A&M Corpus Christi, Craft Training Center, Del Mar College, United Way of Coastal Bend, Southern Careers Institute. So this is a pretty comprehensive list of partners when you're looking at the things that our families might need, everything from childcare, maybe uniforms, um, classes, certifications, social services. It could be utility assistance, it could be rent assistance. So this is different people in the community that we work very closely with to provide services for our families going through case management under community services. These are just some pictures of graduates through the program, some nursing students, and a couple other pictures of people that have just graduated through the classes that community services has helped with. It's meeting that ultimate goal. Okay, programs that are under community services to help promote self-sufficiency is the case management. We've talked about that a little bit. Heating and cooling. So if families need assistance with new air conditionings, more energy efficient air conditioning systems, utility assistance, paying utility bills, minor home repairs, maybe meeting ADA compliance, different things like that, weatherization, more energy efficient homes, and then affordable housing. We actually have some different properties for renting that we can help some of our clients with. Currently, there are 53 households receive services under weatherization. 1,678 households received services under utility assistance, and 184 households received assistance under heating and cooling. Okay, another way is home preservation and modification. The agency has assisted with bathroom modifications, kitchen modifications, roofs, insulation, plumbing, electrical, health and safety, and then air conditioning repairs. So that's quite extensive. You never know unless your parents call, your families call, see what we might be able to help with. These are just a few pictures, renovations of some stairs, then adding in ramps for ADA compliance and wheelchair access. Okay, I mentioned earlier that we have some rental units. We actually have 19 different rental units. We have 2 actual homes in Robstown. There's 2 apartments on Staple Street. There's some apartments in an 11-unit complex on Houston, and then a 4-unit complex on Crestbook. Contact information for clarification, for appointments, for anything that you might need under community services. There's Ms. Valle's information, her phone number and her email. Mr. Sanchez, the CSBG coordinator, phone number and email. The weatherization department and the housing department. And again, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to write their phone numbers down. Whether you need it for your families, you might need it for yourself or a family member. We're going to begin our discussion on the Birth to 5 Head Start program. Now we're going to look at the history of the Head Start program. As a matter of fact, this year we're celebrating our 55th birthday for the Head Start program. I found this video on YouTube, and some of you may have watched it or seen something very familiar, but I really felt like it was important to share this video because it thoroughly covers the Head Start program, the history, how we started out, the hours of service even, and to currently where we're at. It talks about how many children we've served, and I'm hoping that it'll really help some of the new staff that we have really understand the true meaning behind what Head Start is and where we've come from and how we've evolved. So I hope that you enjoy this video. It's roughly about 6 minutes. So we'll go ahead and take a minute and get started with it.
This administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
In his State of the Union address on January 8, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson urged Congress and the citizens of the United States to do everything necessary to end poverty in our country. With Sergeant Shriver at the helm, the war on poverty took shape as a comprehensive effort to address the needs of the nation's poor, nearly half of whom were children. Enacted by the 88th Congress, the Economic Opportunity Act created a preschool program that would change the way we educate our children. It would give them a head start and work to eliminate the cycle of poverty in our country.
We set out to make certain that poverty's children would not be forevermore poverty's captives.
On May 18, 1965, President Johnson announced the creation of Project Head Start in a White House Rose Garden ceremony. He spoke about the importance of investing in children, and Head Start launched that summer as an 8-week program serving 500,000 children nationwide.
I believe that this is one of the most constructive, one of the most sensible, and also one of the most exciting programs that this nation has ever undertaken.
The following year, after a remarkable first summer, Congress authorized Head Start as a year-round program. In the mid-70s, Head Start served more than 5.3 million children in every corner of our nation. The first Head Start program performance standards were created in 1975. They outlined guidelines and expectations for all Head Start programs. By 1984, the Head Start budget exceeded the $1 billion mark, and the program had served 9.1 million children in its nearly 20-year history.
Few things could be more central to the life and health of our nation than the education of our children.
In the early 1990s, President George H.W. Bush proposed a 27% increase in Head Start spending to expand access to preschool for low-income families.
I've often said that governments can't raise children, that people have to do that. But parents need help in a lot of places in this country today, just like they did 29 years ago.
Then, in 1994, the Head Start Reauthorization Act created new opportunities for Head Start to lead early care and education. The act helped Head Start keep true to communities, parents, and children by building on the vision and recommendations contained in a report issued by the Advisory Committee on Head Start Quality and Expansion. 1994 also saw the creation of the Early Head Start program to address the comprehensive needs of pregnant women and low-income children under the age of 3. Early Head Start programs first opened their doors to pregnant women, infants, and toddlers the summer of 1995. The Head Start Reauthorization Act of 1998 allowed full day and year services, set education standards for teachers, and focused renewed attention on school readiness and literacy.
Our budget increases the funding for Head Start while giving it a clear mission.
In 2007, Congress passed the Improving Head Start for School Readiness Act. This act preserved Head Start as a federal to local program, strengthened state roles, and enhanced standards for education workforce and accountability.
I firmly believe that Head Start is an outstanding program and a critical investment. We are proud of what you are doing. You've got a president who's got your back.
By 2010, with the help of federal, state, and local partners, Head Start had invested in more than 27 million children since its inception in 1965. But the path hasn't always been easy. Sequestration in 2013 caused more than 57,000 children to lose their seats in Head Start classrooms. The $427 million budget cut had a massive impact on Head Start's ability to serve the most vulnerable children in our country. But on January 13, 2014, Head Start programs breathed a sigh of relief when Congress passed the spending bill to fully restore funding. Later that year, Head Start received a $1 billion increase in funding, including a new investment in early Head Start child care partnerships. As early childhood education expanded and became more prominent in state capitals and in Washington, D.C., Head Start continued to lead the way. In the past 5 years, bipartisan support in Congress and across administrations have led to federal funding increases for Head Start of more than $2 billion per year. Head Start program standards, already known as the gold standard for high quality in the early childhood field, were completely overhauled in 2016. This first comprehensive rewrite in Head Start history allowed Head Start to embrace the principles of continuous quality improvement and better utilize data to improve services for children and families. With new and unique challenges facing children and families due to COVID-19, Head Start will remain a stabilizing force for families and communities throughout these turbulent times. With 37 million alumni over the past 55 years, Head Start has provided generations of children the opportunity for success in school and in life. Head Start is building future legacies every day, current students and parents who will make a positive difference in the communities and the world for years to come.
Well, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we have a purpose. We are affecting multiple children. We're building legacies for our future. So continue what you do.
This administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
In his State of the Union address on January 8, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson urged Congress and the citizens of the United States to do everything necessary to end poverty in our country. With Sergeant Shriver at the helm, the War on Poverty took shape as a comprehensive effort to address the needs of the nation's poor, nearly half of whom were children. Enacted by the 88th Congress, the Economic Opportunity Act created a preschool program that would change the way we educate our children. It would give them a head start and work to eliminate the cycle of poverty in our country.
We set out to make certain that poverty's children would not be forevermore poverty's captives.
On May 18, 1965, President Johnson announced the creation of Project Head Start in a White House Rose Garden ceremony. He spoke about the importance of investing in children, and Head Start launched that summer as an 8-week program serving 500,000 children nationwide.
I believe that this is one of the most constructive and one of the most sensible and also one of the most exciting programs that this nation has ever undertaken.
The following year, after a remarkable first summer, Congress authorized Head Start as a year-round program. In the mid-70s, Head Start served more than 5.3 million children in every corner of our nation. The first Head Start program performance standards were created in 1975. They outlined guidelines and expectations for all Head Start programs. By 1984, the Head Start budget exceeded the $1 billion mark, and the program had served 9.1 million children in its nearly 20-year history.
Few things could be more central to the life and health of our nation than the education of our children.
In the early 1990s, President George H.W. Bush proposed a 27% increase in Head Start spending to expand access to preschool for low-income families.
I've often said that governments can't raise children, that people have to do that. But parents need help in a lot of places in this country today, just like they did 29 years ago.
Then, in 1994, the Head Start Reauthorization Act created new opportunities for Head Start to lead early care and education. The act helped Head Start keep true to communities, parents, and children by building on the vision and recommendations contained in a report issued by the Advisory Committee on Head Start Quality and Expansion. 1994 also saw the creation of the Early Head Start program to address the comprehensive needs of pregnant women and low-income children under the age of 3. Early Head Start programs first opened their doors to pregnant women, infants, and toddlers the summer of 1995. The Head Start Reauthorization Act of 1998 allowed full day and year services, set education standards for teachers, and focused renewed attention on school readiness and literacy.
Our budget increases the funding for Head Start while giving it a clear mission.
In 2007, Congress passed the Improving Head Start for School Readiness Act. This act preserved Head Start as a federal to local program, strengthened state roles, and enhanced standards for education workforce and accountability.
I firmly believe that Head Start is an outstanding program and a critical investment. We are proud of what you are doing. You've got a president who's got your back.
By 2010, With the help of federal, state, and local partners, Head Start had invested in more than 27 million children since its inception in 1965. But the path hasn't always been easy. Sequestration in 2013 caused more than 57,000 children to lose their seats in Head Start classrooms. The $427 million budget cut had a massive impact on Head Start's ability to serve the most vulnerable children in our country. But on January 13, 2014, Head Start programs breathed a sigh of relief when Congress passed a spending bill to fully restore funding. Later that year, Head Start received a $1 billion increase in funding, including a new investment in early Head Start child care partnerships. As early childhood education expanded and became more prominent in state capitals and in Washington, D.C., Head Start continued to lead the way. In the past 5 years, bipartisan support in Congress and across administrations have led to federal funding increases for Head Start of more than $2 billion per year. Head Start program standards, already known as the gold standard for high quality in the early childhood field, were completely overhauled in 2016. This first comprehensive rewrite in Head Start history allowed Head Start to embrace the principles of continuous quality improvement and better utilize data to improve services for children and families. With new and unique challenges facing children and families due to COVID-19, Head Start will remain a stabilizing force for families and communities throughout these turbulent times. With 37 million alumni over the past 55 years, Head Start has provided generations of children the opportunity for success in school and in life. Head Start is building future legacies every day, current students and parents who will make a positive difference in the communities and the world for years to come.
Now we'll talk about the consolidated budget with the COLA. If you're wondering what it is, a COLA is a cost of living adjustment. Okay, this is the consolidated budget with the COLA for the funding year 2020-2021. On the left side of the screen, you see the budget categories of salaries, the fringe benefits. The fringe benefits are all of those things that the agency contributes to, like our insurances, our retirement, our death benefit, those kind of things. The travel, that's under TNTA, that's when we have to actually travel to go to a training. The equipment, those are large expenses, anything over $5,000 a piece. You see that there's zero there. We have supplies. Supplies in this category is the Child and Family Services supplies, it's office supplies, and things like that. Then you have contractual. The contractual is for like the mental health consultant, the life coach, anybody that we have to have a contract with. Construction, we don't have any construction expense. And then other is pretty much everything else. It's utilities, it's insurances, it's the mileages for staff, it's director's certificates, it's director's insurances, it's registration for like National Head Start Association, different things like that. So the other is pretty much a lump sum of everything else that isn't in the other categories that you see. So the budget starts off with Head Start PA22. The PA22 is essentially the account number for the preschool program. Then you have Head Start TNTA, that's training and technical assistance. Essentially the TNTA dollars are specifically for when staff goes to training. It's CDA expenses, things like that. Early Head Start, the PA28, that's the account number for Early Head Start, the infant and toddler program. Then you have the Early Head Start TNTA budget, your column for your totals, and then your column for your percentages. Taking those totals, what is the percent of the budget that is spent on that category? So we'll start off looking at salaries under the Head Start, the preschool division. Salaries are $4,655,012. For Early Head Start, $4,030,933. for a total of $8,685,944. So you'll see that salaries is the biggest percentage of our entire budget. It's 71.38% of our entire budget. Fringe benefits for the preschool division is $1,341,109. For the Early Head Start program, it's $1,127,577 for a total of $2,468,686. So the next largest expense of 20.29%. Travel is specifically under TNTA, as I mentioned earlier. For the preschool division, it's $31,539. For Early Head Start, it's $26,922 for a total of $58,461, which is 0.48%. Okay, then looking at equipment, we don't purchase any large equipment, or at least this year we are not. So you see zeros all under that category. Supplies for the preschool division is $19,625. For Early Head Start, it's $87,587 for a total of $107,212, which equals to 0.88%. You may be wondering why it's so much larger in Early Head Start. Well, it really does break down to the fact of all the diapers, the wipes, the formulas, booties, gloves, all those kind of things that are so much more expensive. That's why it's larger in the Early Head Start program. Under contractual, $29,960 under the preschool division. Early Head Start is $26,914 for a total of $56,874, which is 0.47%. Okay, construction, we don't have anything, so you'll see zeros. Under other, the preschool division is $357,657. TNTA other is $46,624. The infant and toddler division, $318,503. Early Head Start TNTA is $68,642 for a total of $791,425, which equals out to be 6.5% of the entire budget. So salaries, fringe, and the other are our largest categories under our budget. So looking at the total federal portion, these are the amount of the federal dollars that we'll receive. For the preschool division, under the account number 22 is $6,403,362. For the TNTA preschool is $78,162. Early Head Start, account number 28, is $5,591,514. TNTA for Early Head Start is $95,564 for a total of $12,168,602. So essentially that's the money that comes from the Office of Head Start. The non-federal portion is that portion that we have to come up with through our in-kind, through our donations, through space donations, things like that. So the non-federal portion is $1,600,841. For TNTA preschool is $19,541. For Early Head Start, $1,397,878. For Early Head Start TNTA is $23,891. So a total of $3,042,151, 25%. So that's a large portion of our budget, $3,042,151. That's what we need to come up with. So that's why it's really, really important to be working with your parents, explaining to your parents the reason why, even sharing with them the amount that we as an agency have to come up with through those in-kind and donations. Those volunteer timesheets are really, really important. So all said and done, a total operating budget under PA 22 is $8,004,203. Total budget under Head Start TNTA is $97,703. For Early Head Start, total budget is $6,989,392. Early Head Start is TNTA is $119,455. So a total budget, all inclusive, non-federal, federal, Head Start, Early Head Start, all together, $15,210,753. Okay, our enrollment for this year for the Head Start program is 813 children. In Early Head Start, we have 352 children and 10 expectant women. Okay. Also, please remember, very, very important, this budget will be emailed out to all the site-based managers and it must be posted at every center. Very, very important. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit more about non-federal share. Okay, this is the information, this is the why, the policy, the procedure straight from the Head Start Act. So according to the Head Start Act, Section 640B, it states that the Head Start Act stipulates that the federal share of the total cost, so our total budget, of the Head Start program will not exceed 80% of the total grantee budget unless a waiver has been requested and granted. Okay, so essentially the Office of Head Start will provide 80% of whatever our budget is. We have to provide the other 20%. Where it talks about a waiver isn't something that we really want to do. It's not a positive thing for an agency. It's not something that we say, oh, well, we didn't meet our non-federal share, we'll just write a waiver. It really is not good for an agency to have to do that. This year, because of the COVID-19, is the first year that we've ever had to request a waiver for our non-federal share, and that's just really because our parents could not be involved. So again, as I said earlier, that's why we're always reminding, encouraging the staff, encouraging the parents about completing those timesheets, you know, making sure that you're collecting them from the parents on a timely basis. But it really, really is important, and it is mandated. Just in case you're wondering what the Head Start Act is, the Head Start Act is the original document of the procedures from the Office of Head Start. It's those statements of what we have to do, why we have to do them. This is the original superseding document from the Office of Head Start. And then more recently, you now also have the performance standards. And the performance standards, as we saw in the video, the most recent copy of the performance standards were 2016. Okay, so anytime that you see Head Start Act or performance standards, that's the legal document of what we have to do. So some of the definitions relating to non-federal share to help us understand the big picture. We'll start with allowable cost. Allowable cost is essentially under non-federal share, there are certain things that we can claim and certain things that we cannot claim. So allowable cost for anything to be something that is considered allowable would be something that the agency would typically and legally spend Head Start dollars on. So I'm going to give you an example. An allowable cost would be when your parents are able and they choose to donate classroom supplies, things like paper towels, spiral notebooks, pencils, crayons, paint, any of those things. That's a supply that we have to have for the classroom. So it would be an allowable cost. As an example of something that would be a non-allowable cost, this would be anything that the agency could not legally spend Head Start dollars on. So an example of that might be at Christmas time, you have somebody that wants to donate winter coats for all of the children. That's a great thing. The children may all need winter coats. However, that would be something that would just truly be a gift to the children. It's not something that we could claim as a donation, would not be an allowable cost, because first and foremost, those coats are going to go home with the children. So an allowable cost has to stay at the center, benefit the children while they're at the center. So with that same example, the coats, they're going to go home with the children. And then the second portion of that is that's not something that the agency would typically spend Head Start dollars on. Okay, volunteer. Those are the people that we can receive in-kind donations. They can receive that hourly rate. Volunteers can receive that rate based on if they are doing something that typically a Head Start staff would be eligible to receive wages for. So helping out in the classroom, doing homework, helping out with bulletin boards, doing laundry at the center, helping the teacher set up the table for lunch, maybe, any of those things. A volunteer is somebody that would be willing to come in and do things and not receive pay for it. They fill out the in-kind sheet in lieu of pay. Okay, cash contributions, essentially that's donations that are a monetary amount. Okay, federal match, as I mentioned earlier when we talked about the budget, the federal match, that's the portion of the budget, the monies, the actual monies that we receive from the Office of Head Start. Okay, disallowance, when we have an auditor come in and look at our in-kind, and they come in on a yearly basis. Yes, an auditor will sit and look at page by page by page of those in-kind sheets, and it would be anything that that auditor would deem that you can't claim this. We cannot justify using this as an allowance. So let's say in that example of the winter coats, somebody might say, you know what, I'm going to try and slide this through. They'll never notice. Well, I'm not saying that our staff would do that. That's just an example. But an auditor would find that and they'd say this is disallowable. And so essentially whatever that amount was that we tried to claim, we have to take that total off of what we think that we have as an in-kind contribution. Okay, non-federal match, that's the portion that we have to come up with. So federal match is 80%, non-federal match is 20%. Okay, documentation, any of our in-kind hours, our donations, our cash contributions, all of those things must be documented, and this is according to the Office of Head Start. All of these definitions that are listed here come straight out of the performance standard as it relates to non-federal share. So that's why we're talking about them today. So it is mandated through our performance standards that we have a formal legal document reflecting any of the activities that our parents do, any contributions, any donations, those kind of things. Okay, the total cost, as I mentioned earlier when we were referring to the budget, it's just what is it going to take for us to run our program. It's the total amount of dollars that we need to operate our program. Okay, and then in-kind, that's volunteer hours, it's donations, it's cash contributions. that's what in-kind is, and it's essentially our way of meeting the non-federal match. Okay, I hope that clarifies, because you'll hear in the agency all of these words used, and just want to make sure that everybody has a thorough understanding of what we're referring to. Okay, so we're going to look at a simple calculation, just a simple practice of how we figure out that non-federal portion. You've heard me say it multiple times. Federal share is 80%, non-federal share is 20%. So to keep it simple, we're going to say that our total cost, our total budget, what it takes for us to operate our program, is $1 million. So to calculate, to figure that out, as Miss Davila sits down and she figures out what her budget is, she says, this is what I'm going to need, this is how I'm going to use it. So 80%, that federal match. So she says, I need $1 million to run my program this year. So for her to figure out what the federal match would be, she would take that federal match, the non-federal portion of 20%, as I said. So she'd take her total cost, she'd multiply it by her 80%, and her federal match, essentially what the Office of Head Start says, we will contribute $800,000. 1 million times 80% equals $800,000. Then to figure out the non-federal portion, what NCCAA has to gather through in-kind, you figure your $1 million times your 20% and it equals $200,000. If you calculate everything together, when you add your non-federal portion and your federal portion, it should equal your total cost, your total budget. Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about the parent committee. When we talk about the parent committee, these are the center level that you vote in September. These are the people that should be coming and helping and setting up and running your parent meetings on a monthly basis. So 1301.4, performance standard, a mandate. So a mandate from the Office of Head Start according to Performance Standards 1301.4, parent committees. So according to letter A, establishing parent committees, a program must establish a parent committee. Okay, so first of all, we must have one. Every center must work, must collaborate, must communicate, must talk, must recruit a parent committee. This parent committee must be comprised exclusively of parents of currently enrolled children as early in the program year as possible. So 3 parts of that. First of all, we have to have a parent committee. Second of all, it can only be parents. So the definition of parents under the Head Start Performance Standards is those that are biological parents or legal parents, caregivers. So biological parents, foster parents, legal kinship parents, anybody that would have actual legal guardianship. So if mom is a working parent and she says, hey, grandma stays at home and she'd love to be involved, can she come be part of this parent committee? Unfortunately, as you see in the performance standards, no. So grandmother can come and attend the parent meeting. However, she cannot be in that official voted in spot on the parent committee. Okay, and then the third part of that is that they have to be set up and established as early as possible in the program year. So it's important that you're talking to your parents from day one about parent involvement, talking to them about the parent committee, how we need representation, we want to be transparent, we want the center's voice to be heard, and trying to recruit and encourage parents to take these spots in the parent committee as soon as possible in the year. Okay, so there's 3 main requirements of the parent committee, and this is according again to the Office of Head Start, the performance standards. So letter B, the requirements of parent committees. Programs must ensure the parent committee carries out the following minimum responsibilities. So anytime that a performance standard states must, that's something as an agency we better make sure is happening. So the parent committee must advise staff in developing and implementing local program policies. So anytime we're making any kind of policies or thinking about it, the parent committee has the right to give feedback on it. Okay? They have the right to develop and implement activities and services to ensure they meet the needs of children and families. So when we are making the selection criteria, parents are supposed to be involved. When we're making staff policies and procedures, parent committee should be involved. When Ms. Davila is working on the budget, the parent committee should be involved. Okay? Parent committees must have a process for communication with the policy council and policy committee. So essentially you'll see that this is the start of the tiered level of parent governing bodies. So it starts at the center level with the parent committee. Then you have from that parent committee people that are voted in to become a policy council representative. And then the highest level of that tiered governing is the board. So a person from the policy council becomes a policy council rep seated on the board committee also. So it just becomes that level of transparency, want the voices to be heard from the center. Parents have concerns, they have things that they think are really great. They have the right to bring that information, share it to the policy council representative. The policy council representative then comes and shares it at the policy council meeting. Then the policy council rep that's seated on the board shares that information at the board meeting. So it's that hierarchy of sharing and communicating and being transparent. Okay, and then number 3, within the guidelines established by the governing body, policy council or policy committee, participate in the recruitment and screening of early Head Start and Head Start employees. So what this means is that we have to have parents from some level involved in our recruitment and our screening. So sharing the information that we're hiring. If they know somebody that they think would be a good candidate, that means sitting in on the interviews. And in our program, in our agency, we actually have a subcommittee from the policy council that is called the personnel committee. So when staff is recruited, interviews are completed with a parent sitting in on the interview, then a recommendation is made from these interviews. The smaller subcommittee of the policy council, that smaller group is called the personnel committee. That personnel committee comes together and they have the opportunity to review the applications. They have the opportunity to hear the information as to why a recommendation is being made. And then they ultimately have the opportunity to say, yes, we think this is a great candidate, or they have the opportunity to share any concerns or ask questions, or ultimately say, you know what, we don't really agree with this. Maybe we need to re-interview, or maybe we shouldn't hire this person. Okay, and then also ultimately that personnel committee has the right, when we feel necessary, when I say the word we, as an agency, if there is a recommendation for dismissal, whether it be termination or something like that, the Personnel Committee votes and approves staff, the dismissal of staff also. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to move into our last topic, the Policy Council. Second level, you have the the Parent Committee at the center level. Now you have the Policy Council. The meetings are held once a month at central office based on those that are part of the council, the Policy Council. They vote and decide what day and what time each month they would like to have those meetings. But again, you see that 1301.3, when you see a number written like that, especially for all of you new staff that may not be real familiar and you're still learning, anytime you see a number as displayed like it is on this slide, 1301.3, you should automatically think performance standard. In performance standards, you should automatically think this is a mandate by the Office of Head Start. Okay, so according to Performance Standard 1301.3, letter A, establishing Policy Council and Policy Committees. Our program, we have a Policy Council. Policy Committees are for delegate agencies, but our agency is not a delegate, so we have Policy Council. So each agency must establish and maintain a Policy Council responsible for the direction of the Head Start program at the agency level. So essentially you see right there, Policy Council is responsible for the direction of the Head Start program. So they have the right to say yes or no to anything that we take to them for approval. Okay, the composition, what is the makeup of our Policy Council? A program must establish a Policy Council. Must establish. Okay, parents of children currently enrolled. So just like that at the Parent Committee, because your Policy Council person is somebody that comes from that Parent Committee, if it's mandated in the Parent Committee that they have to be a parent of a child currently enrolled, then it makes sense that that person, the composition, must be a parent of a child that's currently enrolled. Okay, and it states that each center must be proportionately represented on the Policy Council. So what that means is that every center is supposed to have a Policy Council representative. I understand it's hard. Sometimes you have parents that are not interested, but essentially, ultimately, what that means is that we are required to try and have a representative from every center. Also, what that means is that if somebody is voted in to be a Policy Council representative, and for some reason, at any time further down the line throughout the school year, if that person is no longer the representative, whether they, have had to drop out, maybe work schedule or something like that, or maybe they're not able to attend the meetings, we have to have another representative voted in. Okay, so we're now at B number 2. It says the program must ensure members of the Policy Council do not have a conflict of interest. Staff may not serve on the Policy Council or Policy Committee except parents who occasionally substitute. So remember, substitutes are not hired staff. Hired staff would be considered a conflict of interest because they may be swayed or try to vote on things that would best serve themselves. So ultimately, our policy council members cannot have a conflict of interest. Okay, policy council members, letter C, have specific duties and responsibilities. Okay, number 1, a policy council is responsible for activities specified at section 642C 2D of the Act. It's kind of extensive. There is another slide we'll get to in just a moment to cover all of that. A policy committee must approve and submit to the delegate agency its decisions in each of the following areas referenced at section 642C 2DI through the Act. So again, like I said, it's kind of extensive. We'll get there, but the policy council, there's a very specific list of what the policy council is responsible for, just like there was a list of what the parent committee was responsible for. So now we're at C2. A policy council must use ongoing monitoring results, data on school readiness goals, and other information described in 1302-102 and information described in 642D2 of the Act to conduct its responsibilities. Okay, so remember, if you go back to letter A, Policy Council is responsible for the direction of the Head Start program. But in order for them to be responsible for the direction, they have to understand what is really going on at our centers. So they have to use information that is shared with them, and it has to be valuable, authentic information to help them make educational decisions, and I should say educated decisions, and not just based on, you know, oh, that sounds good, or no, this doesn't sound good. They should be using documented evidence, so to speak, to help them make the decisions that will direct the program. Okay, and those things are the monitoring results, school data, school readiness goals, class information. It could be attendance, it could be enrollment numbers, it could be staffing information. So on a monthly basis at the Policy Council meetings, Ms. Davila has a formal report, and every month it covers the same topics so that they're receiving consistent information every month to help make decisions that are in the best interest of the agency, the children and the families, the community as a whole. Okay, so duties and responsibilities of the PC. The Policy Council shall approve and submit to the governing body decisions about each of the following activities. Okay, so the governing body, that's the board. So that's the third tier of this kind of hierarchy of the governing body of our program. So parent committees at the center, Policy Council, and then ultimately you have the governing body along with Ms. Beretta as the ultimate final say-so. Okay, the governance of the program. So letter Roman numeral I, activities to support the active involvement of parents in supporting program operations, including policies to ensure that the Head Start agency is responsive to community and parent needs. So ultimately, are the things that we're doing, is it supporting our children? Is it supporting our families? Or are we making decisions that just support our staff? Are we making decisions that are just in the best interest of our staff? Are we really looking out for what the community needs and what our parent and children need? Okay, Policy Council needs to share information about program recruitment, selection, and enrollment. Roman numeral II there, our Policy Council and our board, they actually, in the performance standards, under the eligibility, the ERC component, there's a specific statement because it relates to fiscal integrity. Our Policy Council and board must be trained within 90 days of being seated on program recruitment, selection, and enrollment. Okay, so Roman numeral 3, our PC must be involved in applications for funding and amendments to those applications for funding for programs under this subchapter prior to submission of applications described in this clause. So essentially what that means is on an annual basis, when Ms. Davila sits down and she writes out her budget, she is responsible to share the budget. They have to give approval, final approval, first at the Policy Council, and then it goes on to the board for approval. And part of the application process, she has to submit the documentation that Policy Council and board has actually approved the budget for the following year. Okay, budget planning for program expenditures, including policies for reimbursement and participation in Policy Council activities. So any kind of policies relating to reimbursement, if it's a staff at a higher level, they know that we're in need of something and they run to the store and buy it, they save the receipt, and of course, again, going back to our definitions, it has to be an allowable cost, but they would save the receipt and they would ask to be reimbursed for it. There has to be specific written procedures for that so that there's transparency, so that it is legitimate, so that we are demonstrating ethical practices under financial guidelines. Okay, bylaws for the operation of Policy Council. So the Policy Council has to share with the board, the ultimate governing body, what their bylaws are, how the Policy Council is going to operate, what days they are going to be gathering together, what are the procedures that they're going to handle when somebody is not seated for a center, what are the procedures that they're going to do if somebody's not coming to the meetings, you know, those kind of things, so that there's ultimately somebody else always looking and guiding. Okay, so Roman numeral 6, program personnel policies and decisions regarding the employment of program staff, consistent with paragraph 1E49, including standards of conduct for program staff, contractors, and volunteers, and criteria for employment and dismissal of program staff. So ultimately, Policy Council and governing body, they have to be involved in any of our personnel committee or our personnel policies and decisions regarding employment. Okay, developing procedures for how members of the Policy Council of the Head Start agency will be elected. And then Roman numeral 8 there, recommendations on the selection of delegate agencies and the service areas for such agencies. So you'll see that there's 8 very specific responsibilities that the Policy Council has, 8 specific areas where Policy Council has to submit approval and then share that approval on with the governing body. So ultimately the governing body, they next make decisions in these very specific areas. Okay. All right. So we covered a lot of information. Let's review together to ensure that you have an understanding of everything that we've talked about, because these are kind of the nuts and the bolts of the bottom level of the policies and procedures. Okay, so number 1 lists 3 services provided by community services. I had a slide that had maybe 6 or 8 different things. So it could be utility assistance, it could be case management, it could be weatherization, it could be air conditioning. So any of those things. Okay, number 2, what is the goal of community services and how do they ensure they meet this goal? Okay, so ultimately their goal is to transition their clients out of poverty. Remember that acronym TOP. And then how do they ensure that? They ensure that through case management, sticking with following along, working side by side their clients to ensure that the needs are met and that their clients are just encouraged and motivated to get where they say they want to be. Okay, number 3, what document did we discuss today that must be posted at each center? Okay, that's the consolidated budget. Okay, again, I will be emailing that out now that we've reviewed it, and site-based managers are responsible to make sure it gets posted at their center. Okay, number 4, why must the agency have center committees and policy council? Okay, ultimately, it's because we have performance standards stating that we must have these 2 different groups, but ultimately it's about governance, it's about transparency, that they are both there to guide us and direct the program. Okay, number 5, when must the center committees be voted in? That's as early in the year as possible. Okay, and number 6, last but not least, what is the requirement for a person to participate in either of the 2 committees, the parent committee or the policy committee? That requirement is that they are a parent of a currently enrolled child. Okay. All right. So with that being said, I think we're finished, and I wanted to just say thank you to everybody for all of the hard work, especially through the last few months where we've been working from home. As we saw in the video of the 55 years, you know, this COVID-19 epidemic has been, you know, really hard. It's been a challenge for some of our children and some of our families. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being persistent. Thank you for being dedicated. Thank you for being open-minded. Thank you for being patient with all of your coworkers and your peers, your administration. You know, this is new territory for all of us, but I just want to say thank you for all that you do to meet the needs, to build our future. I'm going to leave you with this. Have a great year, and remember why you do what you do. The influence of a great teacher can never be erased. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great year.